Ooh, it's your boy Johnny Finesse. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. As you already know, the iPhone came out a couple months ago, and they're already talking about iPhone 13. So let's talk, as it says, the Portless iPhone 13. So they're basically trying to take cords away. I mean, I seen it happening as soon as the new iPhone don't come with a charger, so I guess that's the route they're taking. So I guess they're trying to save us some money, I guess, but actually they're not, because they're gonna give us the wireless charger that's supposed to be in the back and stuff like that. But it is what it is. If you're new to the channel or if you're returning, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Subscribe. Be on the road to 450 subscribers, so I need y'all to hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss a thing again. Also, 90% of you guys that watch my channels are not subscribed, so I need y'all to hit that subscribe button. There's many of you guys that don't subscribe, so subscribe. Also, I do stream on Twitch. Link is in the description box below. As you can see, I've been posting videos about me playing Marvel and stuff like that. It's exclusive to Twitch. You feel me? I'm already started on my next walkthrough on Twitch tonight, so you can see what it is first, and then I'm probably gonna upload it like a day or two later, so you get that exclusive. You feel me? But with that being said, let's get into it. Also, if you like the video already, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. I really do. If you haven't smashed that like button, you feel me? Smash that like button, boo. Smash the like button. Let's get this video to 5 likes, y'all. We can do that now. I'm giving ourselves goals because we can do that now. I feel like we have enough subscribers to start making goals for likes. So if you can get this video to 5 likes, that'll be awesome.
What's up, MKBHD here. All right, you've heard the rumblings. It seems like everyone's just saying it. So let's talk about it.
Let's talk
Apple
about it.
getting rid of the port in the next iPhone. See, all of the best and all of the worst things about Apple products like the iPhone come from the level of control Apple has over them. Now, if Apple's $1 trillion value is any clue, for most people, these are typically good things. Like we were just talking about this with the M1 Max and how this vertical integration is what enables this amazing efficiency. And that kind of started in the iPhones with their great use of smaller batteries and less RAM, and their excellent image and video quality with their image processing pipeline. All the stuff that people love about the iPhone comes from this. But with all of that control, it also means if you're an Apple person, you're along for the ride for the misses too. Now, whether that's, an ultra thin keyboard in the Max that ends up breaking after 2 years, or just antenna gate or something bad about the iPhone, you're along for the ride. So now the next thing for Apple is getting rid of the port on the iPhone, possibly as soon as the next iPhone, lucky iPhone 13. But there's no way they just get rid of the port and don't say anything, right? And that brings us to maybe one of the truest, most consistent facts in all of tech, which is that most of Apple reporting can be boiled down to looking at the past, looking at what the history of one of the biggest, most consistent tech giants ever has done.
Oh, God.
And applying that pattern to the future, assuming it will happen again, assuming they will keep that up. So when I do that, when I look back at previous iPhones as they've moved towards this portless future, I've noticed that with everything they've removed from the iPhone, they always do two things. One, they try to solve the problem that is caused by the thing they got rid of, and probably charge you for it. And two, they will always try to justify on stage why they got rid of that thing.
No cap.
So solve.
So most likely they're gonna say, we removed the charger port to make more space for all the other parts to make the phone better and faster. That's all they can really say.
And justify. So just look back at a few years of the iPhone through this lens. Let's get rid of all the moving parts. iPhone 10, they got rid of the beloved home button, right? Now, you would have a really hard time finding one reasonable person who's like, oh yeah, get rid of Touch ID, get rid of the best, fastest, most perfect biometric authentication we've ever seen in a phone. We don't really need the home button anymore, right? But Apple had this vision of getting rid of this button, so they needed to solve and justify. So they did, in fact, solve no Touch ID by adding this new thing called Face ID. So they're getting back this form of biometric authentication. And they justified getting rid of it because, hey, look at how much more screen you get. Look at how great.
Yeah, but honestly, I'm not gonna lie. The Touch ID is faster to get in. It's faster to get in. Like you would press the home button and you're automatically in your shit. For me, to where it is, sometimes you could be looking down, this, that, and the third, and plus now the pandemic where you have to wear a mask and stuff. That Touch ID would have been clutch.
This bezel-less thing looks. The gestures are great, and this is the future of the iPhone. And so you could still buy an iPhone with a home button, the iPhone 8, which was launched, or at least announced on the same day. But it was very clear from that moment forward that that was the future of the iPhone. So here's another one. Remember when they wanted to get rid of the headphone jack in the iPhone?
They did that too.
Same thing. Solve and justify. Now this time this was in 2016, and it was a little bit more of a notoriously less convincing solve and justify, but they tried it. They solved no headphone jack by releasing and selling their own wireless headphones the same day. They called them AirPods, and they turned out to be kind of a ridiculously popular product that made Apple a lot of money. And then they went to justify on stage getting rid of the headphone jack with a couple of things. This was the iPhone 7 we're talking about, and so this actually became the first water and dust resistant iPhone. I had to go back and watch the presentation again to remember that. But the thing is, there were also already phones out there with water resistance and headphone jacks already, so they had to toss in a little extra. They had more space inside the phone now for a better Taptic engine and a slightly bigger
See,
battery.
They're about to do the same thing again.
Sure, I guess. And they also tossed out this whole courage thing that went over great. They had the courage to move forward towards this.
What was that?
That went over great.
Psych.
They had the courage to move forward towards this wireless future. Okay, so what's next? The Lightning port. They want to get rid of that too. So the question is now, what's going to be their solve and justify? What's going to be their solution to getting rid of the Lightning port, and what's going to be their reason that they tell us for getting rid of the Lightning port? So I spoke to Mark Gurman about this, probably the most reliable Apple journalist on planet Earth right now, just about when and why they would do this. Pardon the quality, it is from a MacBook webcam. What do you think could possibly be Apple's explanation or angle to justify or explain why they wanted to get rid of the port, the last piece you could plug in?
Yeah, I think that their explanation for removing the charging port is going to probably be nearly identical to their explanation for removing the headphone jack. Their rationale is probably going to be nearly... I think that their explanation for removing the charging port is going to probably be nearly identical to their explanation for removing the headphone jack.
The same thing that I said. Creating more space to make the phone faster.
Their rationale is probably going to be the same. 1, you don't need it. 2, we have wireless. 3, it takes up, valuable space that they can use for other things, whether that's making a larger battery or other little gizmos they can throw in there, right? I mean, this is what would make sense to me. So my sense is that they're going to add in-screen fingerprint, whether that's in the 21 phone or the 22 phone. That probably, I'm not exactly sure, but I assume that's going to take up a little bit more space inside the phone to have that sensor underneath the display, right? So I would say, you know what, they'll probably be like, this is the trade-off. We're going to remove that port that you probably don't use or need anyways, and we're going to put that under-screen fingerprint, a larger battery, better camera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so they add an in-screen fingerprint reader to the phone the same year that they get rid of the port, maybe, so that they can say the extra space from getting rid of the port allowed room for those internals. Maybe that's not technically wrong, but...
Even though there's plenty of phones out now with this in-screen fingerprint readers and plenty of room for a port.
Okay, maybe a little extra water resistance.
Because they will probably do that to save money.
And boom, that can be Apple's
But I feel like they would take that away to push forward the charging with the back, because that's what this phone, the iPhone 12, is like. They're pushing forward. Like they have they don't want you to buy a charger because they don't have the charger in it. They want you to buy that like you feel me, like since you didn't have that charger, you gotta go and buy a charger. And now you have the option. Do you either want the same old charger that you had, or do you want this new charger with your new phone? You feel me? Be different with your phone. You feel me? That's what they're trying to do. And then next year they're gonna do that.
For getting rid of the port. Sure. But I think the solve part is much harder here. It's why it seems to us logically like removing the port is ridiculous. Like it's the most necessary part of...
Well, the solve part is to use their new charger.
Every phone in history has already had ports, but here's how I think Apple can frame it. So number one, they'll say, we solved it with this whole MagSafe thing, and now we've got this amazing wireless charging solution that slaps onto the back of the phone.
As I just
it's
said.
Perfect. It's amazing. And number two,
It's not.
when's the last time you plugged in your phone for anything other than charging?
Exactly. Like, basically, my phone can do that shit, and it's the X, so we've been had this shit. I have my own wireless charging shit right here. It's not plugged in, because I don't use it. It's a waste of time, because you could just put it right here, and that's it. But since it's magnet, they upgraded it. It might be cool, you feel me?
And what really is going to need to happen, to be honest with you, is they can't pull this off unless they put the MagSafe in the box, right? At
Yeah,
$40
exactly.
this year, I'm sure they can get the margins down in higher quantities to being able to feasibly price it at $20 or $30. But I think, time allows for stronger margins on these products, and time allows for lower prices. So I think it'll all even out. Trust me, if they move to a portless iPhone and don't include the MagSafe on the box, I'm going to lose my mind on Twitter, right? So,
Okay.
Yeah.
that would be pretty controversial, and
Yeah.
I would be shocked if they did that. But on the other hand, they're the same company that said they're moving away for environmental reasons this year, but really requires you to go ahead and buy that new charger for $40 or $60, depending if you get the MagSafe as well, to really take full advantage of that full power charging. So I guess anything's possible.
So I agree with Mark. I think MagSafe kind of has to be in the box logically. But little known fact, do you know how the Apple Watch also ships with that little puck as their own little MagSafe? There's two versions of that. There's actually a plastic and metal version of that little
nice
puck
little
charger.
green
Depending
shit.
on which Apple Watch you get, you might get either the plastic cheaper one or the metal more expensive one. Right now, the only MagSafe available for the iPhone, the one they've just invented, is a metal one. And so I could easily see Apple making a new plastic version around next year or sometime between now and then, which will be cheaper, allowing them to toss it in the box and also save a little money. Now, there are some other uses of the port on the iPhone specifically, things like transferring data when you're setting up a new iPhone, or wired CarPlay for the 99% of cars that don't have wireless CarPlay. But again, if you look at the grand scheme of things, Apple's going to say those are more niche things, and they can dedicate teams of people to solve those problems, like starting a while ago. So they can make maybe a lightning adapter for wireless CarPlay. They can make maybe a perfected wireless iPhone setup. I already use iPhone setup wirelessly when I'm transferring my data from an old one. So they can work on that stuff between now and the next iPhone, and then they'll have their solution. They will have their solve.
That whole shit would be a dotted line. I feel like they're gonna replace this whole shit to be a big ass speaker. That speaker gonna be
And they're
nuts.
justify. What's next then? If they've gotten rid of the home button, they've gotten rid of the headphone jack, they're getting rid of the port, are the buttons next?
Oof, that's a good one. I don't see how they can remove the buttons, to be honest.
I'm gonna go ahead and say the buttons, I think, are here to stay for at least a couple more years.
No cap.
Just because buttons are just such a difficult thing to solve and really difficult to justify getting rid of. And actually, as a matter of fact, replacing the buttons on the side of a phone with this pressure sensitivity and haptic feedback has been done before, and it wasn't great. I reviewed the HTC U12 Plus in 2018, which did exactly this. And maybe the tech in the sensors and haptic motors is better since then. Maybe you could remove accidental presses and even the weird glitches and customization and do it all better with today's tech. But even then, it's like, I can't help but think, what if the phone freezes? You already can't yank the battery, but now you also can't hard reset with the buttons because the buttons are frozen. Buttons the way they are pretty great. There's not a whole lot you can improve about them, and I think getting rid of them for the tiny little bit of extra space you might gain, or maybe some better water resistance, is just a really tough sell. So I think buttons are here for a while, but again, it's not if, it's when will they eventually get around to changing that too. Fun fact though, there is actually already a completely buttonless, holeless phone. Did you hear about this? It's been tried before. Last year, in 2019, along came the Meizu Zero. And this phone had no charging port, no speaker holes, no physical buttons, and no headphone jack. So we've had a completely holeless phone before. How did it go? Well, they got their headlines for sure. Got a lot of people talking about it. And then Meizu made the phone an Indiegogo project. It got a grand total of 39 backers, failed to meet its funding goal, and died.
Damn.
Canceled. So the world wasn't really ready for that yet. Maybe someday we'll look back and say that was ahead of its time, that this whole Meizu Zero thing, it was just ahead of the tech available to it. But at the end of the day, I want to pass the question off to you, Philip DeFranco style. Where do you fall on this whole port thing? If Apple gets rid of the port in the next iPhone, will you just be right up in line getting it and just switching to MagSafe and calling it a day? Or
I mean, if they do it with the next iPhone, which I'm gonna get because I got the X, I usually wait like 3 or 4 years till I get the next iPhone to truly see a real update with the phones. And as you can see, that's a real true update with the phone. So I'm gonna get that phone regardless, just because. It's one, two, I don't know.
Or will you be on the other side of that spectrum, raging in the comments about how Apple created a problem and then solved it and conveniently sold you the solution again? I'm curious. I'm sure there'll be a lot of good comments below. And then how do you feel about this whole buttonless, portless future that we're moving towards? Because again, it's Apple starting the trend.
I wouldn't really mind it if it's touch, like, you know, like the volume thing on the side right here. If they just make it like a little touch thing for the volume and you just go like this and that, bro. That's how I see, like this and that. Like, just make it like a touch. You can make it touch, this and that. Silence, doot, 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 doot. Everything is just touch. But you really gotta just hold it down like a button. Like with the haptics, the haptic shit, it can do that. I see that like that, you feel me?
But as we've seen so often, maybe 1 or 2 years after Apple does something ridiculous, like getting rid of the headphone jack, it usually ends up becoming a trend, and we start to see it everywhere. So let me know if you're on board with the whole thing, or if you hate the idea. We'll hang out in the comments section below, and I think it'll be pretty good. Either way, thanks for watching. If you want to listen to my entire conversation with Mark, it'll...
No, I kind of don't, because it's stuff that I really, honestly, don't care that much. But nah, it comes out when it comes out. But if you made it to the end of the video, you obviously liked the video. Hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 450 subscribers. It's your boy Johnny Finesse. I'm gonna see you on the next video.